Fantastic. Well, welcome to our EHRS. We have in the front of the plane, we have Captain Ari and First Officer Keto. So we're going to have to ask you to stay on mute until it's your turn to be leading us. We're going to fly all the way to Sushan for sun, sea and sand, and I could see in the Zoom windows many people wearing exactly what they should. I am doing the ultimate sin, which is wearing Crocs with socks, just like a proper British person on holiday, which I believe I am here in Edgware. So of course we're going to begin tonight with Ma'ariv, and we're going to do it like we did last year in every way except for the biggest way, which is actually all being here in person. We're going to use our Ma'ariv in Poetry, created by Rabbi Paul Friedman, which we're going to enjoy together. And whether you're joining us on the classic channel on the live stream, and I want to say right away, welcome to those who've joined this flight from Exeter community, from the Stevenage community, and anyone who's here from Boston, because I know there are people from a few different places around the world who are joining our EHRS Megillah reading tonight. Right, we're going to begin on the second page of the Ma'ariv, and here we go. Welcome one and all to our service tonight. If you came here for decorum, you're in for a fright. So have a stiff drink and prepare for some fun, and we'll start with the service right here on page 1. Our liturgical form is tortuous verse, some excruciatingly painful, and some even worse. So to start off the service, I'll call out to you a line of invitation. It's the Baruch Hu, to which you'll reply, when you've heard what I've said, Baruch Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed. 2 blessings precede Shema. 2 more will follow after. First, God brings on the twilight, and so brings on the laughter. Thank God for heavenly bodies that move as God did deem. Baruch atah Adonai ha-ma'ariv aravim. And then, God's love for us, our guide upon life's trail. Baruch atah Adonai ohev et amo Yisrael. Hear, O Israel, the Eternal One's our God, and the Eternal God is one. Forever blessed will God's name be in glorious kingdom. This one we're going to do straight. Let's read the Shema together. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha. V'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavcha hayom al levavecha. V'shnamtam levanecha v'dibata bam. V'shiftecha b'veitecha u'v'lechtecha v'derech u'v'shochbacha u'v'kumecha. U'kshatam la'ot al yadecha. V'hayu l'totafot beineinecha u'chtavtam al mezazot beitecha u'v'sharecha. Emet, emet. It's true, it's true. God's saving power, it don't fail. Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael. An extra prayer at evening time that asks for God's protection. For after it comes the Amidah, the next liturgical section. We pray God guards forever, not just some passing fad. Baruch atah Adonai, Shomer Amo Yisrael, La'ad. Now Rabbi Debbie's going to take us on through the Amidah and on and on.
Find them on the EHRS Classic channel page, right at the top of the page to help you out. So we're on page 3 of our Ma'ariv service. The Amidah is said standing. It's abbreviated below. The Shabbat version's shorter, so tonight don't read too slow. Adonai sefatai tiftachu fi tahilatecha. Adonai sefatai tiftachu fi tahilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu. Elohei Avraham, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Leah, Elohei Rachel, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Koneh Shamayim va'aretz, Magen Avot v'imaot b'dvaro, Mahayim etim b'ma'amro ha'el hakadosh. So that's the first 3 blessings all rolled up into one. Now 13 more, the weekday ones, you could count them for fun. First, thank God for your grey stuff, your brain, your head, your nut. Baruch atah Adonai chonein hada'at. Next, God asks for repentance. The way back could not be smoother. Baruch atah Adonai harotzeh b'tshuva. In return, we get forgiveness. How does God have the koach? Baruch atah Adonai chanun hamarbeh lisloach. And when we need redeeming, our God stumps up the veil. Baruch atah Adonai goel Yisrael. Next, we ask for healing, for head or soul or limb. Baruch atah Adonai rofeh hacholim. May God bless this year's produce. May the earth in bounty brim. Baruch atah Adonai mevarech hashanim. We thank God for our freedom. Pray no country be our jail. Baruch atah Adonai mekayem nidchei amo Yisrael. We should all act righteously. Our sovereign God demands that. Baruch atah Adonai melech ohev tzedakah u'mishpat. This next blessing concerns evil, whose supporters won't go far. It's Baruch atah Adonai hama'avir rasha min haaretz. The righteous, the pious, the honest and converts who join our team. Baruch atah Adonai mish'an u'mivtach letzadikim. We pray for peace in Jerusalem and an end to needless dying. Baruch atah Adonai bonei Yerushalayim. We hope salvation soon will flourish and our future so assure. Baruch atah Adonai mitzmeach keren Yeshua. Yo, listen up, Almighty, our heavenly counselor. Baruch atah Adonai shomea tefillah. That's 3 to start, then 13 more, and now just 3 to go. How that adds up to just 18, I bet you'd like to know. Ritzei, Modim, and Shalom Rav are for brevity combined. Though halfway through, to interrupt, Al Hanisim you will find. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu ba'amcha Yisrael, v'litfilatam she'ei modim anachnu lach. Al hanisim ve'al hagevurot ve'al hateshuot ve'al haniflaot ve'al hanechamot she'asita lavotenu b'yamim hahem u'bazman hazeh. Now, Ari, we're going to need Rabbi Mark's voice for this bit as well, so we need both of us. Way, way back many centuries ago, not quite as far back as when the Bible began, Mordechai and Esther were Jews in Persia. They lived in the capital known as Sushan.
Haman and sons, with his evil plan, he was feeling quite bold. Haman! Didn't hear ya. Haman and sons, let's all kill the Jews, the young and the old. Back to Debbie!
They set the date for the 13th day of the 12th month, which is known as Adar, to carry out the genocide, exterminate the Jews. But God performed a miracle, Haman didn't get far.
Haman, let's hear. Haman and sons, miraculously his axe recoiled on his head. Haman and sons, God performed a miracle and now they are dead. Back to you, Rabbi Debbie, for Shalom Rav. Let's talk about peace right now. Seems appropriate since we're being so horrible to Haman.
Shalom Ra'av al Yisrael Amcha tasim leolam. Baruch atah Adonai mevarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom. In silent meditation, the Amida's end now has come, after which prepare to sing a rousing Osei Shalom. Osei Shalom bimrama, hu yaseh Shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru Amen. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. V'imru. Now we'll hand over to Rabbi Roberta to join the crowd.
Okay, I have to say, I think it's really mean to have only left me really serious prayers at the end. I think it's very mean. Concluding prayers are all that's left, and less to entertain you. The Kaddish is the mourner's prayer, but first we say Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים, ונתן לנו את תורתו, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים, לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד ארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינת עוזו בגובהי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס סולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבביך, אדוני הוא האלוהים, בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת, אין עוד. Therefore, Almighty God, we put our hope in you. Soon let us witness the glory of your power, when the worship of material things shall pass away from the earth, and prejudice and superstition shall at last be cut off, when the world will be set right by the rule of God, and all humanity shall speak out in your name, and all the wicked of the earth shall turn to you. Then all who inhabit this world shall meet in understanding, and shall know that we are all partners in the repairing of your world, for yours alone is the true reign, and only the glory of your rule endures forever. So it is written in your Torah, the Eternal shall rule forever and ever. So it is prophesied, the Eternal shall be sovereign over all the earth. On that day the Eternal shall be one and known as one. And we come to the Kaddish, and let's say it all together in our own homes, thinking of the people that we love who are still alive within us. Yit gadal v'yit kadash shemei rabbah, v'olma divrach chirutei, v'yamlich malchutei, v'hayachon v'yomechon, v'choyei dechol bet Yisrael, v'agala v'zman kari v'imru. Amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevorach le'alam u'le'almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitchomam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei defutsha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. De'amiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shamaya. V'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. V'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. V'al kol olam. V'imru. Amen.
Sorry, Roberta. We didn't mean to hurt her by giving you the serious bit, because we know within you is great fun just as much as anybody else. Now, as we just said the Kaddish, of course, so many of us will be thinking of those who were with us in our last Purim, wearing their costumes, looking amazing, and none of us can fail to think of Rabbi Neil Kraft in his wonderful clown costume, as always putting the most enormous effort into Purim and attacking people with his rubber chicken. Well, we've given the rubber chicken a rest this year because that really is Neil's very, very special thing, and we all miss him, and we loved how much he enjoyed and loved Purim. And we think of him, and we think of all those who we've lost since this was the last time we properly gathered together as a community a Jewish year ago. But in their memory, and thinking of those who are with us, know how much they enjoyed that, and how much they enjoyed Purim. And in their memory, it's for us also to enjoy Purim. So what we're going to do to get ourselves in the mood, we're going to sing one song, which is the Hag Purim song you'll see at the end of the Ma'ariv service. And that's a little practice to make a noise. Havanarisha, rush, rush, rush. So whatever noisemaker you've got at home, if you made one in the Gregor session with Rabbi Debbie, if you have one of your own, or if you've just got hands to clap. Let's do that together as we sing Hag Purim. Here we go. Hag Purim, Hagadol Yehudim, Masechot Ra'ashanim, Zmirato Ikudim, Havanarisha, rush, 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 Havanarisha, rush, 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 Havanarisha, rush, 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 Vaharashanim. Perfect! That was brilliant. Now that tells me that when we get to important parts of our Megillah reading and we begin to hear of the heroes and also the villains of our Megillah and our heroines as well, we'll be able to go boo. So here is our proper, real Megillah, which was being shown in the Meet the Megillah session. It's a very special document. We showed how special the way that it is written is, and it begins with Vayechi bimei Ahashverosh HaMelech me'hodu va'ad Kush. So all of that was to help Rabbi Debbie get ready to say the blessings and to be able to start us. Now, many of you on the Zoom are, of course, going to be our readers tonight, and I'm afraid we've got to be a little bit like EasyJet and Ryanair tonight, which is, as they said, if you're late, we can't wait. So, when it comes to your turn, what I will need you to do is to unmute yourself. I will say your name so that we know who's got to come forwards. Unmute yourself, and Captain Ari and First Officer Quito will make sure that you are seen reading Megillah. We'll give it a couple of goes. If we can't hear you, we'll just have to carry on with love for you, and hopefully all will work out fine. Or it might not work out fine, but that's what Purim's all about. So, Rabbi Debbie, are you ready to say the blessings to get us started with the story of Esther and Haman?
Got their Gregors ready, their shakers and noisemakers. We want to see all the noise that you're making.
Off you go then.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. Our blessings over the Megillah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al mikra Megillah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asa nisim la'avotenu bayamim hahem bazman hazeh. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehecheyanu v'kiyemanu v'higiyanu lazman hazeh.
Amen.
And we begin at the very beginning. Vayehi bimei Ahashverosh. Hu Ahashverosh hamolech mahodu ve'ad kush. Sheva rashorim umea medina. B'yamim hahem kashevet hamelech Ahashverosh al kisei malchuto asher b'Shushan habira. Bishnat shalosh lamalcho asa mishte lechol sarav va'avadav. Chel paras umadai haparatmayim v'sarei hamedinot lefanav. Baharoto et osher kavod malchuto ve'et yaka tiferet gedolato. Yamim rabim shmonim ume'at yom.
40 days.
Darcy and Nadine, it's your turn. Darcy and Nadine, from verse 5.
At the end of this period, the king gave a banquet for 7 days in the court of the king's palace garden for all the people who lived in the fortress Shushan, high and low alike. There were hangings of white cotton and blue wool, caught up by cords of fine linen and purple wool to silver rods and alabaster columns, and there were couches of gold and silver on pavement of marble, alabaster, mother of pearl, and mosaics. Royal wine was served in abundance, as befits a king, in golden beakers, beakers of varied design. And the rule for the drinking was no restrictions, for the king had given orders to every palace steward to comply with each man's wishes.
Thank you, Darcy.
In addition, Queen Vashti gave a banquet for women in the royal palace of King Ahasuerus. On the same day, when the king was merry with wine, he ordered Mehuman, Bizetha, Harbona, Bigtha, Abagtha, Zetha, and Carcass, the 7 eunuchs in attendance on King Ahasuerus, to bring Queen Vashti before the king wearing a royal diadem, to display her beauty to the peoples and the officials, for she was a beautiful woman. But Queen Vashti refused to come at the king's command, conveyed by the eunuchs. The king was greatly incensed, and his fury burned within him.
Ayome, yeah, I unmuted myself. Ayome hamelech lahachamim yodei ha'atim ki ken davar hamelech lifnei kol yodei dat vadin. Vahakarov elav karshana sheitara admata tarshish meres marasana memuchan shivat sarei paras umadai roe penei hamelech Hayishvim Rishona Bamalchut Kadat Ma Laastot Bamalka Vashti al Asher Lo Esta Et Ma'amar Hamelech Achare Verosh Beyad Has Risim.
Yes. Thereupon Memucan declared in the presence of the king and the ministers, Queen Vashti has committed an offence not only against your majesty, but also against all the officials and against all the peoples in all the provinces of King Ahasuerus. For the queen's behaviour will make all wives despise their husbands, as they reflect that King Ahasuerus himself ordered Queen Vashti to be brought before him, but she would not come. This very day, the ladies of Persia and Media, who have heard of the queen's behaviour, will cite it to all your majesty's officials, and there will be no end of scorn and provocation.
Takes place in the Wacholder family, including, hey, a chicken! I'm so pleased to see a chicken again. We really need that. Scorn and provocation. That's lovely. Brilliant. Let's go to verse 19, which is going to be me. Im al hamelech tov yetzei davar malchut milfanav, ויכתב בדתי פרס ומדי ולא יעבור, אשר לא תבוא ושתי לפני המלך אחשוורוש ומלכותה ייתן המלך לראותה טובה ממנה. Then will the judgment executed by your majesty resound throughout your realm, vast though it is, and all wives will treat their husbands with respect, high and low alike. The proposal was approved by the king and the ministers, and the king did as Memucan proposed. Dispatches were sent to all the provinces of the king, to every province in its own script, and to every nation in its own language, that every man should wield authority in his home and speak the language of his own people. And now we go to Rabbi Debbie. Now, while you're at home, do cheer, do boo, do make any noise that you'd like, as long as you keep on mute. Rabbi Debbie, get us going on chapter 2.
Can we not just boo the last bit that you just read?
No, we're not going to boo for the bit where everybody listens to their husbands, because I think that'd be really nice.
Sometime afterward, when the anger of King Ahasuerus subsided, he thought of Vashti and what she had done and what had been decreed against her. The king's servants who attended him said, "Let beautiful young virgins be sought out for your majesty. Let your majesty appoint officers in every province of your realm to assemble all the beautiful young virgins at the fortress Shushan in the harem under the supervision of Heg, the king's eunuch, guardian of the women. Let them be provided with their cosmetics and let the maiden who pleases your majesty be queen instead of Vashti." The proposal very surprisingly pleased the king, and he acted upon it. In the fortress Shushan lived a Jew by the name of Mordecai, son of Yair, son of Kish, a Benjaminite. Kish had been exiled from Jerusalem in the group that was carried into exile along with King Jehoniah of Judah, which had been driven into exile by King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon. He was, my text moved, he was foster father to Hadassah, that is Esther, his uncle's daughter, for she had neither father nor mother. The maiden was shapely and beautiful, and when her father and mother died, Mordecai adopted her as his own daughter.
Maybe it's time for any bards who are going to read for us tonight. Chapter 2, verse 8. We got Simon and Lisa.
No. It's Jeff.
It's Jeff.
It was proclaimed, and when many girls were assembled in the fortress of Shushan under the supervision of Haggai, Esther too was taken to the king's palace under the supervision of Haggai, who was guardian of the women.
The girl pleased him and won his favor, and he hastened to furnish her with her cosmetics and her rations, as well as with the 7 maids which were her due from the king's palace. And he treated her and her maids with special kindness in the harem.
Esther.
Bill.
Say it.
Esther did not reveal her people or her kindred, for Mordecai told her not to reveal it.
Every single day, Mordecai would walk about in front of the court of the harem to learn how Esther was faring and what was happening to her.
When you're on the plane and one of the pilots comes out of the cabin, well, that's just what's happening here. You may be wondering who's piloting the plane if First Officer Quito is standing there at the podium. Don't worry, Captain Ari is still at the controls.
When each girl's turn came to go to King Ahasuerus at the end of the 12 months treatment prescribed for women, for that was the period spent on beautifying them, 6 months with oil of myrrh and 6 months with perfume and women's cosmetics. And it was after that that the girl would go to the king. Whatever she asked for would be given her, to take with her from the harem to the king's palace. She would go in the evening and leave in the morning for a second harem in charge of Shaashgaz, the king's eunuch, guardian of the concubines. She would not go again to the king unless the king wanted her, when she would be summoned by name.
Now time to go to Michael and Marilyn Albert, who are going to take us from verse 15.
Esther was taken to King Ahasuerus in his royal palace in the 10th month, which is the month of Tebeth, in the 7th year of this reign. The king loved Esther more than all the other women, and she won his grace and favor more than all the virgins. So he set a royal diadem on her head and made her queen instead of Vashti.
Trying to get ourselves towards the chapter where everything changes. Here we go. The king gave a great banquet for all his officials and courtiers, the banquet of Esther. He proclaimed a remission of taxes for the provinces and distributed gifts as befits a king. And when the virgins were assembled, a second time Mordecai sat in the palace gate. But Esther still did not reveal her kindred nor her people as Mordecai had instructed her. For Esther obeyed Mordecai's bidding, as she had done when she was under his tutelage. Now, something I want to tell you before I read the next bit. If you have managed it, you can now download and open your Kahoot quiz. Now, what I'm waiting for is from Marion to tell me what the code number is for the Kahoot quiz, because you need to put that in. This quiz follows our Megillah and tells the story, and the person who gets the top score, well, they'll hopefully feel very good about themselves. What else will happen, we don't know. Now, Marion is going to show us the instructions, but they are on our website. My suggestion is if you've got the Kahoot quiz, brilliant, play along. If you haven't, we're sorry about that, but you do need now to give us, please, Marion, the PIN number. What is the PIN number? Okay, Marion's going to start the game. You play this alongside the Megillah. We believe this is going to work. So she's going to start the game.
If I start this, I'm going to teach you. Can you all see my screen?
We can.
Right, okay.
No, we can't.
So I'm going to now. It'll take a minute or two to get set up, hopefully. Right, so I choose the classic. And then loading. Right, the PIN number is being loaded. So if you've gone to www.kahoot.it, or you've got the app, the PIN number will load immediately. So this is the number. Can you all see it? 760-722-7228. Sorry about the awkward music.
How this works.
Right. So it'll work when what you have to do, the question comes up in mostly four little coloured boxes, and on your app, say you're using your iPhone, you have to press the coloured box that you think is correct. So I can see people are joining. These are the people joining. The Footermans have joined: Tosca, Graham, MW, the Woolies, Maz and Mick, Rabbi Mark, Anita, Rabbi Debbie, Herman family. So as people join, we'll give a couple of minutes for people to join before we start. We've got,
Hey, so we got a quiz. We've got a quiz going. Okay, I'm watching, and I'm going to try and play the quiz at the same time as reading the Megillah. This may be difficult. So keep listening to the Megillah and you'll get the answers. Okay, fantastic. There's nearly 20 of us playing against each other. It'll be really interesting to see who's going to win this quiz. Let's see how we go. 10 questions, and every single one of them can be answered by listening closely to the Megillah. Oh, there's nearly 25 people now. That's fantastic. Well done, Marion. Okay, so I'm going to carry on from where we got to. Bayamim hachem u'Mordechai yashav b'sha'a hamelech katzaf bigtan v'teresh shnei sarisei hamelech mishamrei hasaf v'yivkshu lishloach yad b'melech ha'Achashverosh. ויוודע הדבר למרדכי, ויגד לאסתר המלכה, ותאמר אסתר למלך בשם מרדכי, ויבקש הדבר וימצא, ויתלו שניכם על עץ ויכתב בספר דברי הימים לפני המלך. Now, hopefully, we're going to be going on our quiz. Yes, I see my name on the screen. It's coming, it's coming. It says get ready. We're about to go for chapter 3. Here we go. Right, chapter 3 begins with Peter Feldman. Good luck, Peter. The story of Purim takes place in the Persian city of what? Peter, off you go.
Thank you. Sultan. Hang on. We can't do it that way because they have to actually answer the question.
Okay. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. You're okay. As long as you're on Zoom, you're all right, Marion. That's fine. Peter, I'm really sorry. Can we bring you forward again? And off you go.
Sometime afterwards, King Ahasuerus promoted Haman, son of Hammedatha the Agagite. He advanced him and seated him higher than any of his fellow officials. All the king's courtiers in the palace gate knelt and bowed low to Haman. Such was the king's order concerning him. But Mordecai would not kneel or bow low. Then the king's courtiers who were in the palace gate said to Mordecai, "Why do you disobey the king's order?" When they spoke to him day after day, he would not listen to them. They told Haman in order to see whether Mordecai's resolve would prevail, for he had explained to them that he was a Jew.
Time you can share a screen. Up to then, don't share a screen, and we'll do the next question at the end of the chapter. It'll work, believe me. Right, Robert Davis. Thank you, Peter.
Vayar Haman ki ein Mordechai korei umishtachave lo vayimale Haman heima vayivez beinav lishloach yad b'Mordechai levado ki higidu lo et Mordechai ויבקש המן להשמיד את כל היהודים אשר בכל מלכות אחשוורוש עם מרדכי בחודש הראשון הוא חודש ניסן בשנת 12 למלך אחשוורוש הפיל פור הוא הגורל לפני המן מיום ליום ומחודש לחודש 12 הוא חודש אדר.
And I assume that's Eleanor in that changing cabinet behind you. So, Graham Mendoza-Wilson, it's time for you to come forwards.
L'chaim. Haman then said to King Ahasuerus, "There is a certain people scattered and dispersed among the other peoples in all the provinces of your realm, whose laws are different from those of any other people, and who do not obey the king's laws, and it is not in your majesty's interest to tolerate them. If it please your majesty, let an edict be drawn for their destruction, and I will pay 10,000 talents of silver to the stewards for deposit in the royal treasury." Thereupon the king removed his signet ring from the hand and gave it to Haman, son of Hammedatha the Agagite, the foe of the Jews. And the king said, "The money and the people are yours to do with as you see fit."
Time to invite forwards our vice deck chairman, Joe Sigalov, from verse 12. Joe, where are you? There you go. Anybody else needs to mute yourself, please. Sorry, Jonathan and Sylvia, you need to mute yourself. Joe, forward you come.
ויקראו סופרי המלך בחודש הראשון, ב13 יום בו, ויכתב ככל אשר ציווה המן אל אחר פני המלך, ואל הפחות אשר על מדינה ומדינה, ועל שרי עם ועם, מדינה ומדינה, ככתובה ועם ועם כלשונו. בשם המלך אחשוורוש נכתב, ונחתם בטבעת המלך. ונשלוח ספרים ביד הרצים אל כל מדינות המלך, להשמיד, להרוג ולאבד את כל היהודים, מנער ועד קטן, טף ונשים, ביום אחד. ב13 לחודש 12 הוא חודש אדר. ושללם לבוז. פתשגן הכתב. להנחתן דת בכל מדינה ומדינה, גלוי לכל העמים להיות עתידים ליום הזה. הרצים יצאו דחופים בדבר המלך, והדת ניתנה בשושן הבירה, והמלך והמן ישבו והעיר שושן נרבונה.
Go, thank you. Right, now Marion, we're going to ask you now to share the next 2 questions on the Kahoot quiz. So question 2 and question 3. Let's have question 2 first of all. That's question 1. Question 2. Let's have question 2. Right, here it comes. Queen Esther first became queen. She proudly displayed her Jewishness by wearing a high necklace, keeping kosher. I can't read these. Oh dear. Wearing an I'm proud to be Jewish thing or none of these things, she wouldn't tell anybody she was Jewish. Press your button. Okay. Oh, I think everybody got that one, 17-2. Keeping kosher, interesting. Of course, in Midrash, she did. But that's Midrash, folks, and I said it's in the Megillah. Let's have another question, please, Marion. Well done to the K family, who are currently in the lead with 174 points. Next question coming up. What was Mordecai's relationship to Esther? Was he brother? Was he cousin? Was he uncle? Was he her father? There we go. Right. Oh, we got one person with it not quite right and 20 people with it right. I wonder who that was. Oh, my goodness me. Right, okay. Here we go. Let's carry on with chapter 4. So, Marion, stop sharing your screen. And it's time, I have to say, Captain Ari is dealing with the turbulence incredibly well. Chapter 4, Jill and Robert Bernard.
ומרדכי ידע את כל אשר נעשה, ויקרא מרדכי את בגדיו, וילבש שק ואפר, ויצא בתוך העיר, ויזעק זעקה גדולה ומרה, ויבוא עד לפני שער המלך, כי אין לבוא אל שער המלך בלבוש שק. ובכל מדינה ומדינה, מקום אשר דבר המלך ודתו, מגיע אבל גדול ליהודים, וצום ובכי ומספד, שק ואפר מוצא לרבים.
Thank you so much. It's time for the Flash family from verse 4.
When Esther's maidens and eunuchs came and informed her, the queen was greatly agitated. She sent clothing for Mordecai to wear, so that he might take off his sackcloth, but he refused. Thereupon Esther summoned Hathach, one of the eunuchs from the king who the king had appointed to serve her, and sent him to Mordecai to learn why and wherefore of it all.
Hathach went out to Mordecai in the city square in front of the palace gate, and Mordecai told him all that had happened to him and all about the money that Haman had offered to pay into the royal treasury for the destruction of the Jews. He also gave him the written text of the law that had been proclaimed in Shushan for their destruction. He bade him show it to Esther and inform her and charge her to go to the king and to appeal to him and to plead with him for her people.
And are the Morris family around to take us from verse 9? Morris family. Last call for the Morris family.
Yeah.
Okay, let's pull back from the
Right,
gates,
I'm
folks.
here. Can you hear me?
Ah, that's the different Morrises. That's the Debbie Morrises. This is the Lisa and Adam Morrises. Sorry, Debbie, we'll come back to you later. Okay, thank you. Right, so with that Morris family not being there, half the synagogue's called Morris, so it can be a little bit complicated at times. From verse 9, when Hattach came and delivered Mordecai's message to Esther, Esther told Hattach to take back to Mordecai the following reply. All the king's courtiers and the people of the king's provinces know that if any person, man or woman, enters the king's presence in the inner court without having been summoned, there is but one law for him, that he be put to death. Only if the king extends his golden scepter to him may he live. Now I have not been summoned to visit the king for the last 30 days. When Mordecai was told what Esther had said, Andy Lucas.
Mordecai had this message delivered to Esther. Do not imagine that you, of all the Jews, will escape with your life by being in the king's palace. On the contrary, if you keep silent in this crisis, relief and deliverance will come to the Jews from another quarter, while you and your father's house will perish. And who knows, perhaps you have attained a royal position for just such a crisis. Then Esther sent back this answer to Mordecai. Go assemble all the Jews who live in Shushan and fast on my behalf. That's what we did this morning. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. I and my maidens will observe the same fast. Then I shall go to the king, though it is contrary to law. And if I am to perish, I shall perish. So Mordecai went about the city and did just as Esther commanded him.
Thank you, Andy.
Hooray!
Hey, Marion, it's time to share screen for 2 more questions. 2 more questions, please, Marion. Two more questions in our quiz. We are waiting. Where are you? Marion, can you do it? Yes. Here we go. 2 more questions. Still the K family in the lead. That is brilliant. Oh, no, sorry. The Heyman. We'll find out who that is a little bit later. Next question, please. It's coming. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go! And it's this. The names of the royal chamberlains who Mordecai heard plotting against the king were called, I can't see it, Steptoe and Suntan, I think. Big Toe and Suntan. Big Tum and Shemesh, that's blue. Big Tum and Teresh, and something else, right. Big Coin and Shekel, thank you very much indeed. Big Coin and Shekel. I'm not doing very well at the moment. Marion, can we have another question, please, that I can get right this time? Oh, the Solomon the Barneses are now in the lead, with Maz and Mick, behind them. Right, question 5. 3, 2, 1, 0. How did King Ahasuerus punish Haman? Keita, you can read it from there for me. He banished him from Shushan. He hung him on the gallows that he prepared to Mordecai. Next one. What's the other one?
He made him marry Vashti.
Made him marry Vashti. And the last one.
He made him chamberlain of the royal potty.
He became chamberlain of the royal potty. Right, okay, fantastic. Almost everyone got that one right. Let's carry on with chapter 5 to Julie Templey. Chapter 5, verse 1.
On the 3rd day, Esther put on her royal apparel and stood in the inner court of the king's palace, facing the king's palace, while the king was sitting on his royal throne in the throne room, facing the entrance of the palace. As soon as the king saw Queen Esther standing in the court, she won his favor. The king extended to Esther the golden scepter, which he had in his hand, and Esther approached and touched the tip of the scepter. What troubles you, Queen Esther? The king asked. And what is your request? Even to half the kingdom, it shall be granted you.
Thank you, Julie, and the Futterman family.
If it please your majesty, Esther replied,
Let your majesty and her father come today to the feast that I have prepared for him.
The king commanded, tell Haman to hurry and do Esther's bidding. So the king and Haman came to the feast that Esther had prepared. At the wine feast, the king asked Esther, what is your wish? It shall be granted you. And what is your request? Even to half the kingdom it shall be fulfilled.
If your majesty will do to me this favour, if it please your majesty to grant my wish and accede to my request, let your majesty and Haman, boo, we got a boo from Quito there, that's good, come to the feast which I will prepare for them, and tomorrow I will do your majesty's bidding. That day, Haman, boo, 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 thank you very much indeed, went out happy and light-hearted. But when Haman, thank you very much indeed, saw Mordecai in the palace gate, and Mordecai did not rise or even stir on his account, Haman was filled with rage at him. Nevertheless, Haman controlled himself and went home. He sent for his friends and for his wife Zeresh. Debbie, your turn now. Debbie Morris.
And Haman told them about his great wealth and his many sons, and all about the king. How the king had promoted him and advanced him above the officials and the king's courtiers. What is more, said Haman, Queen Esther, hooray, gave a feast. And besides the king, she did not have anyone but me. And tomorrow too, I am invited by her along with the king. Yet all this means nothing to me. Every time I see that Jew Mordecai sitting in the palace gate, then his wife Zeresh and all his friends said to him, let a stake be put up 50 cubits high. And in the morning, ask the king to have Mordecai, hooray, impaled on it. Then you can go gaily with the king to the feast. The proposal pleased Haman. Boo. He had the stake put up.
Spoke about the stakes, and the stakes are getting higher in our quiz. Marion, can you please share question 6 and question 7? Stoller and the Barnes is at the top. Maz and Mick, here comes question 6. 3, 2, 1, go! Well, the word Purim means celebration, lots, chag or party. I can't read that far away, that's my problem. And in a moment we're going to get question 7. Okay. 15 people got it right, which is lots, of course. Right. Now, Marion, can we have one more question? Question 7. Oh, Maz and Mick now have gone to the top. Hannah just behind, and Jojo next. The festival of Purim is held on 13th of Adar, 14th of Nisan. Can't read the next one. Right. And 14th of Tammuz. Right. Okay. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bingo! Most of us decided it was the 14th of Adar. Not surprising, because that's what today actually is. Let's carry on now with chapter number 6. Amy Soller, come forwards when Marion's turned her screen off. Amy!
That night, sleep deserted the king, and he ordered the book of records, the annuals, to be brought, and it was read to the king. There it was found written that Mordecai had denounced Bigtana and Teresh, 2 of the king's eunuchs, who guarded the threshold, who had plotted to do away with King Ahasuerus. What honor or advancement had been conferred on Mordecai for this? The king inquired. Nothing at all has been done for him, replied the king's servants who were in attendance on him.
Fantastic. And time for some more waxes. You can never have enough. Let's have Stephen family.
ויאמר המלך מי וחצה והמן בלעצה בית המלך רצונו לאמור למלך לתלות את מרדכי על העץ אשר הכין לו ויאמרו נערי המלך אליו הנה המן
Boo!
עומד בחצר ויאמר המלך יבוא ויבוא המן ויאמר לו המלך מה לעשות באיש אשר המלך חפץ בקרוב ויאמר המן יבוא למי יחפוץ המלך לעשות יקר יותר ממני.
Hooray! Hooray, hooray! It's time for Paul Herman and family. Let's have some Hermans.
So Haman said to the king, "For the man who the king desires to honour, let royal garb which the king has worn be brought, and a horse on which the king had ridden, and on whose head a royal diadem has been set, and let the attire and the horse be put in charge of one of the king's nobles, and let the man whom the king desire to honour be attired and paraded on the horse through the city square, while they proclaim before him, this is what is done. The man who the king desires to honour."
Come on.
Quick then, said the king desires to
Get the garb and the horse, as you've said, and do this to Mordecai the Jew, who sits in the king's gate, amid nothing of all you have provided.
Thank you, Jameson, Paul and Nikki and Jolie Bell. And now, Amy and Craig, before a big thing happens in their life not long from now. From verse 11 of chapter 6.
So Haman, it's actually just me at the moment, but so Haman took the garb and the horse and arrayed Mordecai and paraded him through the city square, and he proclaimed before him, "This is what is done for the man whom the king desires to honor." Then Mordecai returned to the king's gate, while Haman hurried home, his head covered in mourning. There Haman told his wife Zeresh and all his friends everything that had befallen him. His advisors and his wife Zeresh said to him, "If Mordecai, before whom you have begun to fall, is of Jewish stock, you will not overcome him. You will fall before him to your ruin." While they were still speaking with him, the king's eunuchs arrived and hurriedly brought Haman to the banquet which Esther had prepared.
Thank you very much, Amy. Now then, Haman is now about to go to the banquet, but that tells us it's time for Marion to share her screen one more time and give us this time just question number 8. One question. Question number 8. Maz and Mick still at the top. Oh, David and Melissa are catching up. And Hannah. I wonder if that's a family rivalry going on there. Let's find out. Next question. 3, 2, 1, go! The book of Esther is one of only 2 books in the Hebrew Bible that is written in Aramaic, commands you to eat ham and tushan, doesn't mention God. Events took place, I can't read that at all, never mind, all fine. Events took place outside the land of Israel. Oh, that's very interesting. Difficult. Okay. Well, we're a bit more split on this one, so let's find out a little bit later. And of course it doesn't mention the name of God. We just said something will help you from another quarter. Thank you very much, Marion. We'll have the next question at the end of chapter 7. But chapter 7, we begin with Lawrence Steen. Lawrence.
ויבוא המלך בהמן לשתות עם אסתר המלכה. ויאמר המלך לאסתר גם ביום השני במשתה היין, מה שאלתך אסתר המלכה, ותינתן לך, ומה בקשתך, עד חצי המלכות, ותעש. תען אסתר המלכה, ותאמר, אם מצאתי חן בעיניך המלך, ואם על המלך טוב, תינתן לי נפשי בשאלתי, ועמי בבקשתי. כי נמכרנו, אני ועמי, להשמיד, להרוג ולאבד. ואילו לעבדים ולשפחות נמכרנו ההרשתי, כי אין הצעה שובר בנזק המלך.
Thank you. And there's some Wittenbergs staying up late tonight for this. Let's have some Wittenbergs.
ויאמר המלך אחשוורוש ויאמר לאסתר המלכה מיהו זה ויזה הוא, אשר מעלו ליבו לעשות כן, ותאמר אסתר, איש זר ואויב, המן הרע הזה, והמן ניבט מלפני המלך והמלכה, והמלך קם בחמתו ממשתה היין על גינת הביתן, והמן עמד לבקש על נפשו מאסתר המלכה, כי ראה כי חלתה אליו. הרי את מת המלך.
Thank you, Gideon and Amelia and Phoebe and Esther. Well, we have a missing reader for this one, so here we go for the next one. Forward from verse 8. When the king returned from the palace garden to the banquet room, Haman was lying prostrate on the couch upon which Esther reclined. Does he mean, cried the king, to ravish the queen in my own palace? No sooner did these words leave the king's lips than Haman's face was covered, like so. Then Harbonah, one of the eunuchs in attendance on the king, said, what is more, a stake is standing at Haman's house, 50 cubits high, which Haman made for Mordecai, the man whose words saved the king. Impale him on it, the king ordered. So they impaled Haman on the stake which he had put up for Mordecai, and the king's fury abated. Marion, one more question, please. Let's have question 9. First of all, who's up the top? Hannah's up the top, then David and Melissa, and there's so few points between them. I get the feeling we've got a Mendoza-Wolfson battle going on there, and we've got Jojo, Maz and Mick, and let's see what the next question is. Question 9. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Boing! Oh my goodness me. Right, good luck if you can read this. I can't read it from where I am. We've got to put them in order in the Megillah. Oh my goodness. All right, I'm going to go for that. I'm going to stick that one there, and stick that one there, and stick that one there, and just hope I'm right. I don't know. Who knows? Oh my goodness me. I don't know how I'm going to manage that one. Plan the events in the Purim story in the order. And who managed the correct order? Oh, my goodness me. Okay, I haven't done very well on that one, I'm afraid. The correct order. King Ahasuerus promotes Haman. Yeah, I got it. King can't sleep. Esther reveals she's Jewish. Esther decrees 2 days of fasting and giving gifts. Never mind. It's time to get to chapter 8, and let's have the K family.
That very day, King Ahasuerus gave property of Haman, the enemy of the Jews, to Queen Esther. Mordecai presented himself to the king, for Esther had revealed how he was related to her.
The king slipped off his ring, which he had taken back from Haman, and gave it to Mordecai, and Esther put Mordecai in charge of Haman's property.
Esther spoke to the king again, falling at his feet and weeping, and beseeching him to avert the plot against the evil plotted by Haman and the Agagite against the Jews. Ow!
Fantastic. Thank you very much indeed. And a flamingo, perfect beach tool to replace the chicken for this year, just for this year. The king extended the golden scepter to Esther, and Esther arose and stood before the king. And if it please your majesty, she said, and if I've won your favour and the proposal seems right to your majesty, and if I'm pleasing to you, let dispatches be written, countermanding those which were written by Haman, son of Hammedatha the Agagite, embodying his plot to annihilate the Jews throughout the king's provinces. For how can I bear to see the disaster which will befall my people? How can I bear to see the destruction of my kindred? Then Ahasuerus said to Queen Esther and Mordecai the Jew, I've given Haman's property to Esther, and he's been impaled on the stake for scheming against the Jews. And you may further write with regard to the Jews as you see fit. Write it in the king's name, seal it with the king's signet, for an edict that has been written in the king's name and sealed with the king's signet may not be revoked. So the king's scribes were summoned at that time on the 23rd day of the 3rd month, the month of Sivan, and letters were written at Mordecai's dictation to the Jews, to the satraps, to the governors, to the officials of the 127 provinces, from India to Ethiopia, to every province in its own script, and to every people in its own language, and to the Jews in their own script and language. And it's now time for Jeremy Harrod to tell us what was written.
He had them written in the name of King Ahasuerus and sealed with the king's signet. Letters were dispatched by mounted couriers, riding steeds used in the king's service, bred of the royal stud, to this effect: the king has permitted the Jews of every city to assemble and fight for their lives. If any people or province attacks them, they may destroy, massacre, and exterminate its armed force, together with women and children, and plunder their possessions. On a single day in all the provinces of King Ahasuerus, namely on the 13th day of the 12th month, that is, the month of Adar. The text of the document was to be issued as a law in every single province. It was to be publicly displayed to all the peoples, so that the Jews should be ready for that day to avenge themselves on their enemies.
Thank you, Jeremy. It looks very lovely where you are. Lorna, come on forwards for verse 14.
הרצים רכבו הרכש והאחשרנים יצאו מבוהלים ודחופים בדבר המלך, והדת ניתנה בשושן הבירה. ומרדכי יצא מלפני המלך בלבוש מלכות, תכלת וחור, ועטרת זהב גדולה, ותכריך בוץ וארגמן, והעיר שושן צהלה ושמחה. ליהודים הייתה אורה ושמחה וששון ויקר. ובכל מדינה ומדינה, בכל עיר ועיר, מקום אשר דיבר המלך ודתו נגיע, שמחה וששון ליהודים, משתה ויום טוב, ורבים מעמי הארץ מתייחדים כי נפל פחד היהודים עליהם.
Thank you, Lorna. Marion, let's have question 10, the final question of our quiz. And my phone's telling me that I am 19 points behind the footer men. David and Melissa have taken over from Hannah. You have to decide which Mendoza Wolfsons you want to win this one. Let's find out. Here we go. Let's have question 10. Jojo, Maz and Mick, etc. soon behind you. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. True or false? Jews who live in a walled city such as Jerusalem observe Purim on the 15th of Adar. No wonder. Thank you very much indeed, Marion. At the very end, we'll find out who actually won the quiz. So please now go away from Marion's screen. Away from Marion's screen. That's it. We're going to find out at the very end of the Megillah reading before the blessing. So now we're on chapter 9. Anita, time for you to come forwards and read from verse 1.
And so on the 13th day of the 12th month, that is the month of Adar, when the king's command and decree were to be executed, the very day on which the enemies of the Jews had expected to get them in their power, the opposite happened, and the Jews got their enemies in their power. Throughout the provinces of King Ahasuerus, the Jews mustered in their cities to attack those who sought their hurt, and no one could withstand them, for the fear of them had fallen upon all the peoples. Indeed, all the officials of the provinces, the satraps, the governors, and the king's stewards showed deference to the Jews because of the fear of Mordecai had fallen upon them. For Mordecai was now powerful in the royal palace, and his fame was spreading throughout all the provinces. The man Mordecai was growing even more powerful.
Thank you, Anita, especially to your hat, which I felt read absolutely beautifully. Now, Dave, our cocktail man, is waiting for us to finish off our Megillah, and here we go. וילכו היהודים בכל אויביכם מכת חרב וחרג ואבדן ויעשו בשונאיהם כרצונם ובשושן הבירה הרגו היהודים ועבד 500 איש. Now, I'm going to read this bit straight from the Megillah because it's very distinctive. You can see that it's actually the names of the 10 sons of Haman. 500 איש ואת פרשנדתה ואת דלפן ואת אספתה ואת פורתה ואת אלדליה ואת ארידתה ואת פרמסתה ואת אריסי ואת ארידי ואת ויזתה עשרת בני חמן. So I'm afraid that's the end of Haman's sons. So I'm going to just catch up with myself. There we are. All the sons of Haman. And, oh yeah, one more thing. But they did not lay hands on the spoil. Nigel Williams, time to come forward for verse 11.
Yeah. When the number of those slain in the fortress of Sushan was reported on the same day to the king said to Queen Esther, in the fortress of Sushan alone, the Jews have killed a total of 500 men, as well as the 10 sons of Haman. What then must they have done in the provinces of this realm? What is your wish now? It should be granted to you, and what else is your request? It shall be fulfilled. If it please your majesty, Esther replied, let the Jews of Shushan be permitted to act tomorrow also as they did today, and let Haman's 10 sons be impaled upon the stake. The king ordered this should be done, and the decree was proclaimed in Shushan. Haman's 10 sons were impaled, and the Jews in Shushan mustered again on the 14th day of Adar and slew 300 men in Shushan. But they did not lay hands on the spoil.
Let's have some Woolstones. Thank you, Nigel and the Williams. Let's have some Woolstones.
The rest of the Jews, those in the king's provinces, likewise mustered and fought for their lives. They disposed of their enemies, killing 75,000 of their foes, but they did not lay hands on the spoil. That was on the 13th day of the month Adar, and they rested on the 14th day and made it a day of feasting and merrymaking. But the Jews in Shushan mustered on both the 13th and 14th days, and so rested on the 15th. And made it a day of feasting and merrymaking. That is why village Jews who live in unwalled towns observe the 14th day of the month of Adar and make it a day of merrymaking and feasting, and as a holiday and an occasion for sending gifts to one another.
Thank you, Andrew. Mordecai recorded these events, and he sent dispatches to all the Jews throughout the provinces of King Ahasuerus, near and far, charging them to observe the 14th and 15th days of Adar every year, the same days on which the Jews enjoyed relief from their foes, the same month which had been transformed from them from one of grief and mourning to one of festive joy. They were to observe them as days of feasting and merrymaking, and an occasion for sending gifts to one another and presents to the poor. The Jews accordingly assumed as an obligation that which they had begun to practice and which Mordecai prescribed for them. For Haman, the son of Hammedatha the Agagite, the foe of all the Jews, had plotted to destroy the Jews and had cast Pur, that is lots, with the intent to crush and exterminate them. But when Esther came before the king, he commanded, with the promulgation of this decree, let the evil plot which he devised against the Jews recoil upon his own head. So they impaled him and his sons on the stake. And now it's our deck chairman and her consorts, Janet and Robert.
For that reason, these days were named Purim, after Pur. In view then of all the instructions in the said letter and of what they had experienced in that matter and what had befallen them, the Jews undertook and irrevocably obligated themselves and their descendants and all who might join them to observe these 2 days in the manner prescribed at the proper time each year.
Consequently, these days are recalled and observed in every generation by every family, every province and every city. And these days of Purim shall never cease among the Jews, and the memory of them shall never perish among their descendants.
Thank you, Janet and Robert. And now it's time for Murray and all his Exeter supporters will give him a wave or a cheer, I'm quite sure. Murray, forward you come.
I do want to say that the Jewish community in Cornwall is also observing today. So hello, Cornwall, Exeter, and Edward Hendon. ותכתב אסתר המלכה ותביחיל ומרדכי היודעים את כל תוקף לקיים את איגרת הפורים הזאת השנית וישלח ספרים את כל היהודים אל שבע ועשרים המדינה מלכות אחת בראש דברי שלום ואמת לחיים את ימי הפורים האלה בזמניהם כאשר קיים עליהם מרדכי היודעים אסתר המלכה וכאשר קימו על נפשם ועל זרם דברי החלומות וזעקתם Mama Esther Kiyam Divrei HaPorim Ha'ela V'tiktav V'sefer.
We're about to go to the last chapter. Marion, can we ask you to come on and tell us what was the result of the quiz?
Hi. So in first place, Hannah. And in second place, Solar and Barnes. That's Debbie and Amy and Dad. And, yay. And in third place, David and Melissa. So there definitely was some competition between the Mendoza Wilsons. And Hannah got it.
Mazel tov, Hannah. We're very proud of you, all of us. Right, time for... Oh, I want to say thank you so much to Marion for putting the quiz together and enabling well over 20 of us, I think, to play it, which was brilliant. Thank you very much, Marion. Mazel tov to Hannah, to the Solars, and also to David and Melissa. Next year, let's see who's on the top of that podium. Which Mendoza Wilson would you put your money on? Let's work it out. Right, chapter 10, the very final 3 verses with Rabbi Roberta.
וישם המלך אחשוורוש מס על הארץ ואיי הים. כל מעשה תוקפו וגבורתו ופרשת גדולת מרדכי אשר גידלו המלך, הלא הם כתובים על ספר דברי הימים למלך מדי ופרס. כי מרדכי היהודי משנה למלך אחשוורוש וגדול יהודים ורצוי לרוב אחיו, דורש טוב לעמו ודובר שלום לכל זרעו.
And we're going to have our final blessing from Rabbi Roberta, if you would say, please, our blessing at the end.
I'll find it, hang on. Hang about.
Final page.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, harav et rivo v'hadan et dino, תשועתנו היית לנצח ותקוותנו בכל דור ודור, לא יבושו ולא יקלמו לנצח כל החוסים בך. ברוך אתה אדוני האל המושיע.
Thank you, Shekoyach. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam ha'el ha'moshiach. Wow, that gets us to the end of the Megillah reading. We have landed smoothly. I just want to say an enormous thank you to Captain Ari Cohen, who kept this plane flying there, so we all ended up on a beach somewhere. First Officer Keto Holtz, thank you for an enormous achievement in enabling everybody who was able to be there to read. We really, really appreciate it. Thank you. So, what happens next? What happens next is this. It's time for us to go to Harry's bar. And Harry's Bar has Dave the barman there ready for us to help us to make cocktails at home. And Rabbi Debbie is going to host us, which in Zoom term means that Ari and Kito are going to send the hosting to Rabbi Debbie. She's going to get you going. I'll probably come and join you upstairs a little bit later. Thank you to everybody who read Megillah tonight. It was really, really beautiful to hear you. Thank you to everybody who dressed up, who made their beach scenes and made all of this work, and to all of those who made our earlier sessions work as well. Forwards to Pesach, but first of all, time to go to Harry's Bar and enjoy a homemade cocktail.
So thank you.